right, everyone. Welcome to Rhythm and Roads podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Jacob. We have a very special guest. We have award-winning writer, producer, and director Ross Marks, and he's also the founder of the Las Cruces International Film Festival. So, welcome, sir, to Rhythm and Roads podcast.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be here and chat with you.
Yes, sir. And I really appreciate what you do for the community of Las Cruces and just helping the filmmakers share their story, just creating this film festival to have them to have a platform to share the creative work. So thank you so much for what you do for the Las Cruces community.
It's a labor of love, labor of love. I have three goals in my life. I want to be a good father, a good husband. I want to grow the film industry in southern New Mexico. So
There you go.
those are my three, my mission in life.
Your mission in life. Well, I take it that mission has been accomplished.
Well, we're getting there,
Yeah.
between teaching film at New Mexico State University and training the next and inspiring the next generation of storytellers in film and the film festival, and then as a filmmaker myself, through those three, and then I'm also the deputy director of the New Mexico Media Arts Collective, which is
Oh,
which
wow.
is all about creating a bus crew base in southern New Mexico. So my wife makes fun of me. She said, I have only one skill set and area of knowledge, and that's film. And so I can talk about nothing else. So as long as we talk
Right.
about film related things,
You're
go
all
well.
good.
If you want to go off into other areas like geology, say, I'm out of my sandbox.
All right. Well, I'm glad that we could just sit and talk about film. And I guess your
Yeah, so
wife's probably more like, can we talk about something else? You're like, no.
exactly. She's like, you only get excited and talk when we talk about movies or we talk about, other things. You don't have much to say. So
Right.
uh,
That's funny.
today I have a lot to say about film.
All right. Well, I do want to get into the journey on the road that you have been on from the start of how did you become a filmmaker or who or what inspired you to pursue filmmaking?
So I've got a kind of a fun story, and it goes back to my wife. I've been
Okay.
with my wife. I've been with my wife Deborah now for 37 years. We've been married
Wow.
for
Congrats.
Yeah, I've been married for 33. And so I grew up in outside of Chicago
Okay.
and was a basketball player in high school and went out west to Los Angeles to play basketball in college and quickly
Wow.
realized that that wasn't going to take me very far. 5'9" white Jewish guy is not really built for a long-term basketball career. So I tried to be an actor. I started studying acting. I
Wow.
transferred to UCLA.
Oh, you
Uh,
did? Wow.
Yes, I was studying at UCLA, wanted to be an actor. I was in the School of Theater, Film and Television, and I met my wife there, and we started dating. And I knew that her father, Mark Medoff, famous Las Cruces resident, had written "Children Lesser God." He won the Tony, won the Oscar,
Wow. Okay.
and great writer. And so she said, "Can I bring my father to see your play?" Because I was in a play at UCLA. I thought, oh my
Okay.
God, yes, of course, this is my big break. I'm going to be
Yeah.
on UCLA, and he's going to take me and put me in his next movie because he had just done that with Neil Patrick Harris. Neil Patrick Harris went to Mark's theater camp at
Oh, wow. Okay.
NMSU, and Mark put him in a movie called Clara's Heart, and kind of the rest is history. So I was excited. Mark Medoff was going to come see me in a play. And after the play, we went out to dinner. My then girlfriend, my now wife, Deborah, and her father, Mark.
Mhm.
And I said, well, what do you think? And he said, boy, you need a lot of work. I said, yeah, okay. Well, what's your recommendation? He said, my recommendation is you transfer to New Mexico State University and you work with me in my theater program because Mark ran the theater department at NMSU.
Okay.
And at the end of 2 years, he said, I'll tell you whether you have any talent or you should go work for your dad. So I
Oh, wow. Just like that, huh?
just like that. So I
Dang.
transferred
Straight up.
to Mexico State and in the theater program there and acted in several plays over 2 years. My wife was not happy. She was very upset. She grew up in Las Cruces and
Okay.
finally left and got to LA, and I was making her come back and to where she didn't want to go. But
Right.
love, thankfully, her love and support is really the tale of my entire story anyway. But
Yeah.
so I work with Mark in the theater for a couple of years at NMSU. My two
Okay.
years are up, and we're playing golf. And I said, "Well, the 2 years are up. What
Yeah.
do you think?" And he said, "You're a pretty good actor. I think you might be able to make a living, but I think you'd be a great film director." So
Ooh.
he saw something in me that I didn't see or even know. And I said, well, what does that mean?
Hmm.
And he said, well, I'm going to send you to LA, set up a bunch of meetings. And Mark was very well established and successful in the film industry. So he set up a bunch of meetings with his friends in the industry, executives at Disney and at 20th
Oh,
Century
cool.
Fox, and directors and producers. And so I met with all of them and I said, hey, I want to be a film director. What do I do? And they all said the same thing. They said there are two paths. One is you can work your way up on a film set. You start as a PA and then you climb the ladder, so to speak.
Okay.
Um, and then you eventually become a director. And then the second path was to go to film school. And
Mm.
I said, okay, well, if I go to film school, where should I go? And they all said, everybody said the same thing. They said, the American Film Institute's the best film school in the country.
Is it
So
really? Okay.
I was in LA, so and AFI was in Hollywood, so I drove to AFI, walked into the building, and I said, "Hey, I want to go to film school here." And they said, "Great, get in line. We get about 5, 6,000 people apply a year." And I said, "Okay, well, what do I have to do?" They said, "Have you ever made a movie?" I said, "I've never made a movie." They said, "Well, you have to at least make one movie so we can determine whether or not you have the talent to come here." So I went back to Las Cruces. Told Mark I was all excited. I wanted to go to the American Film Institute and I had to make a movie, but I had no idea how to make a movie. And he said, well, have you ever seen a movie? And I said, yes, I have. And he said, well, then you can make a movie. So I set out. I made my
Wow.
first short film. It was called Scrambled Love while I was just finishing up school at NMSU. Sent it to AFI, and lo and behold, miracle of miracles, I got into AFI
Oh, wow.
as a directing fellow. I was there the same year as Darren Aronofsky, who would go on and direct the Whale and The Wrestler and Black Swan. And so it was a great time. Got my degree, my master's from AFI, and started making movies. Made my first big movie in 1994 called Homage. Got into
Oh, nice.
Sundance, which was a big deal to be accepted at the
Yeah.
Sundance Film Festival, and been making movies almost 30 years now.
What a journey. What a journey, man. And I'm just shocked just the fact that you've left UCLA and pursue other things, like just the journey of all that to where you're at now. That's incredible.
And now here I am back in Las Cruces
Yes.
all these years later, teaching film at my alma mater, NMSU, and it's the most rewarding job I've ever had is
That's
is
awesome.
teaching and inspiring these young storytellers.
I do want to ask you, and thank you again for sharing that journey. Was there ever a roadblock that came on, like an obstacle during that time where you thought, well, maybe this is not for me because this came up during that journey leading to wanting to be a actor or filmmaker? As
Yeah, I had a lot of success early on, which turned out to be a bad thing for me because my first film was a big hit at Sundance
Oh, wow, congrats. Yeah.
and won some awards, and then immediately after that, I get a call from Gary Marshall, who is one of the most iconic, successful people in the history of Hollywood. He was the creator of Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Mork and
Oh,
Mindy.
very cool.
Then when he pivoted into directing, he did Pretty Woman, The Princess Diaries, all these great films. So
Wow.
Gary had seen my film Homage and called me up and said, "Hey, I've got this film I was going to direct. I want you to direct it and I'll produce it." And that was a movie called The Twilight of the Golds. And that film starred Brendan Fraser, Academy Award winner, Faye Dunaway, Academy Award winner, Gary, Jennifer Beals, Rosie O'Donnell, Jack Klugman, big cast, big budget,
Wow.
filmed really, really well. So out of the gate, I'm now 28 years old. I've got that film also went to Sundance. So I had two very successful films before I was 30, and I wasn't prepared for that success because then the next thing I did was an enormous budget action movie with a big star who will remain nameless, who was horrible to work with,
Oh, wow.
and it was such a bad experience that I thought, you know what? Because I had two kids at the time, I thought, I don't think I can be a director at that level, doing big budget movies with that kind of pressure and responsibility and dealing and catering to big egos. I think I better focus on being a dad and being a husband. So I actually stepped away from Hollywood
Oh, you
for,
did. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I did, and to focus on raising my family. because I couldn't handle some of like Terrence Malick, right? He had these two great films, Badlands and Days of Heaven, and then he got so rattled by Hollywood, he moved to Austin and opened up a bookstore for 20 years. So I did the same thing. I took a hiatus,
Mm-hmm.
uh, moved to Chicago, raised my family for a while, and then came back to New Mexico, Las Cruces, started teaching, making movies again, and since made I think made 8 or 10 movies in the past decade and a half since I've been in New Mexico. But I realized that the thing that I learned, the
Mm-hmm.
important lesson was I realized that I'm an independent filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And independent is critical. That means creative freedom and artistic freedom and making films at a budget level that makes me comfortable and inspires me and motivates me doing these enormous big budget films. I get, calls, fairly often, hey, do you want to do a film at this budget level or do you, and I just say no, because
Really?
I
Wow.
learned the hard way, that's just not my path. But it's just small indie films. I mean, I just did a film with Al Pacino that comes out in June, which was a
Oh yeah, I
small,
read about that. That's
yeah,
awesome.
small indie film. So that's really, I learned the hard way, that you have to know your talent and limitations and stay in your lane, right? So I got out of my lane for a while and it was not a good experience, and now I'm back in my
Wow.
lane.
Now you're back in action.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
awesome, man.
Exactly.
Well, I take it that time that you went away and had some time with your family, you got to just rethink and just reset and be like, okay, what is it I really want to do? Direct again or act. So I mean, and now look, as you had that time to recoup and reset, now you're directing so many films now. You said 10, right?
Yeah, I've had a great, making movies are hard. They're hard to get financed. They're hard to get made. It's all, the one thing I tell my students is it's always about rejection. At every level, it's
Wow.
rejection. You write a screenplay and you send it out, rejection, rejection, rejection. Finally, somebody says, if you get this or actor, or they give you a list, hey, here's 10 actors. If you get one of these actors, we'll fund it. You send it out to the actors pass, rejection,
Oh
rejection,
man.
rejection. You finally get an actor. They say, you go make the movie, it gets released in the theaters, the audience doesn't show up, the critics nail it, rejection. So
Wow.
the only thing I know for sure in this industry after 30 years is it's about weathering rejection. So I've been able to do that a lot better at my age with my experience, than when I was a young man. I'd get my film would come out and get 8 good reviews and 2 bad ones, and I would focus on the 2 bad ones that just would eat me up. Now I realize all anyone can do is their very, very best, and
Mhm.
then it's out of your hands.
Out
And
of your
and,
hands.
and if
Yeah.
you've done your best, you've already been successful.
And I do want to ask about that, where if you can share just a bit for those filmmakers out there that will go through that journey of submitting their scripts and projects, like what's another good, or by your experience, what's a way to handle the rejection where you don't want to just give up, throw in the towel and just be like, you know what, I'm done. Like, what's a way to overcome that?
Well, first of all, it's qualifying the rejection. So within the rejection, typically, say, hey, we're going to pass on your project. Well, can I ask why? Well, it's a action thriller with not enough action. You need to have more action set pieces. Well, okay, that's a positive piece of constructive feedback. You can go back and do a rewrite. So when you get passes or an actor just saying this role doesn't appeal to me, can I ask why? Now, most of the time they don't give you the feedback; they just give you the pass. They just give you the
Oh,
rejection.
really?
But if
Okay.
you're lucky enough to get, the feedback, and then you can take action on that and improve your script so that it doesn't get rejected next time around, and it makes you a better writer or a better filmmaker or a better storyteller. So, the first thing is to qualify the rejection and then try to implement ways to avoid the next rejection. And then the other thing is just to know that, at the end of the day, the other thing I learned as a director is when I was a young director, I was making these movies for me and I didn't care about the audience. Well, and one level that's rewarding, but on another level, and people like David Lynch have pulled off, he did and pull off that type of career.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, if the audience doesn't respond to your work, you're not going to get financed a second time and a third time. You're going to have a hard time making movies with that attitude. So I learned at a young age that at the end of the day, as a filmmaker, my boss is the audience. I work for the audience. They have to like my films or understand my films or respond to my films on a certain level. If it's a horror film, they should be scared. If it's a comedy, they should laugh. If it's a drama, they should be moved emotionally. Whatever the genre. So understand your genre, understand what you're trying to get from the audience. And if you get that thing from the audience, then you've succeeded. If you don't get it, then you failed, and then analyze, why did I fail? Why did this film fail? Why was it not successful? What could I have done differently? And I find time and time again when I work with young filmmakers, right? I've been doing the film festival for 10 years now. So I've come across hundreds and hundreds of filmmakers. Everybody rushes to go make their movie and they don't spend enough time in pre-production. They don't rehearse with their actors. They don't storyboard. They don't shot list. They don't get the right location. They don't. So pre-production is the cheapest part of the filmmaking journey, and most young filmmakers rush into production. They want to start shooting, and they don't put enough time preparing, and that leads to failure or lack of success. So I find, the other thing I've learned is more time in prep. Again, it's the cheapest thing to do. If I'm going to make a movie, watch other movies to get ideas, get inspiration, to get shots, to work with my DP, read shot list by myself, and talk to my actors. So when we get to the set, they're not like, well, what are we doing? They have a plan, I have a plan. And Steven Spielberg said the scariest part about directing is when he pulls up to the set before he opens the car door to walk onto the set. He's like, "Oh shit, what's it going to happen today?" But the more prepared I am, the easier it is to open my car door and walk onto the set. So I'm a big believer in
That's
that.
interesting that he said that. That's interesting. Wow. Well, thank you, Mark, for sharing great advice and just the words of just encouragement just to keep going. It's okay to have that helpful instruction on how to go about your films and other ways of just working with it and tweaking it, I guess what you could say. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, the other thing is too, it's there's a lot of great people in the business, a lot of really bad people in the business, but to get a mentor, I was very blessed that Mark Medoff mentored me, and then Gary Marshall mentored me. So I've had some great
Great
mentors
mentors. Yeah.
that helped me not only become a better storyteller, but more importantly, how to navigate the lifestyle, because it's a challenging lifestyle
Oh, I
to
bet.
be a filmmaker. So I've had some great mentors. I've tried to be a mentor to other young filmmakers. Recently produced, like I said, The Ritual with Al Pacino for a young filmmaker I met at my film festival. David Meidel just produced a movie, Bromance, for one of my former students that I'm mentoring very closely, Keegan Carnes. His film's now opening the film festival, so that's a
Oh,
real full
awesome.
circle moment for me in the festival. So seek out mentors, find mentors, right, and learn from their mistakes. That's the other thing. People got to go at it alone, and they make mistakes that could have been avoided just by talking to people that have been there.
Well said. Thank you, Ross, for sharing that. I do want to get into the film festival, how you got started in starting that festival from the day one. So, what was the story behind that?
So when I started teaching at New Mexico State University's Creative Media Institute, I asked myself, what was the most important lesson that I learned as a young filmmaker? And without a doubt, the most formative, important lesson I learned was when I graduated film school. I sold a screenplay to 20th Century Fox, which was great. Got in the Writers Guild. The movie didn't get made. Then I went and sold a screenplay to TriStar, which is great. So I was making a little bit of money to pay my bills, and that movie didn't get made. And I was complaining to a producing friend of mine that I was running around Hollywood writing screenplays that weren't getting made, and it was frustrating. And also, I wasn't becoming a better filmmaker because the movies weren't getting made. And he said, "Well, go to the Sundance Film Festival." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Go to the Sundance Film Festival. When you come back, let's get together and you tell me why." So I went to Sundance 1994, a long time ago. Sundance was this hotbed of indie film. It was the year that Reservoir Dogs premiered. It was the
Oh, is that
year,
right? Oh,
yeah, it
wow.
was the year I was there at the Reservoir Dogs premiere, and
Oh,
the
that's
Ellen
awesome.
Hunt, Robert Rodriguez's first movie. So I went there and it changed my life because it was this gathering of independent filmmakers. I didn't know that independent film existed. I was running around Hollywood with the
Oh,
studio.
wow. Okay.
But at Sundance in the 90s, 1994 specifically, when I went there, it was this huge celebration of people making movies. It didn't matter the budget, didn't
Wow.
matter the actors, didn't matter. They were just making movies. Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez and all these,
Yeah.
really hungry, excited. Steven Soderbergh had been there with Sex, Lies, and Videotape. So and there were everybody was there: the writers, the directors, the producers, the cinematographers, the costume designers, the actors, everybody was there celebrating and just
Wow.
really, it was so inspiring for me. So I got back from Sundance and I said, that's what I want to do. I
Mm.
want to be an independent filmmaker. I want to make movies that aren't crazy expensive, that I can get made at a price, at a budget. So I came back and it just changed my life because it set me on this path as an indie filmmaker. And the next year in 95, I was there with my own film homage in the competition. So I thought about, that Sundance experience. I thought, well, how do I give that to my students at NMSU? And
Mhm.
I knew I couldn't afford to do a field trip to Park City. So I thought, well, I'll just create my own independent film festival here in Las Cruces, and I'll have the students run it, and it'll be as much a classroom
Oh,
as a film festival. So 10 years ago, we started this film festival. It kind of picked up where Sundance left, because Sundance is
okay.
no longer a cool independent film festival. It's just, big studios are there now and big
Mhm.
stars, Tom Cruise, Ryan Gosling. That was never what it was in the 90s when it was about true independent film.
Oh, wow.
So I thought the independent filmmakers need a home.
Mhm.
Sundance, Tribeca, Telluride, Toronto, Cannes, they've all abandoned the true indie filmmaker. So the
Mhm.
indie filmmakers need a home. And I wanted to do this, indie film festival with and for my students. The fact that it's grown the way it's grown is just a
It's
mind-boggling
incredible.
to me.
Yeah.
The first year, we had one invited guest. We invited Danny Trejo. Danny Trejo came.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Cool dude, really enjoyed spending. This year, we invited 26 guests, including Academy Award winner Helen Hunt and Michelle Hurd, and just
Awesome.
26 people we're bringing in. The first year,
Wow.
we had about 1,500 people. This year, we'll have about 10,000 people.
Is
The
that
first year,
right? Wow.
First year we had about 60 films. This year we have 160 films from 40 different countries. So the
Wow.
event really exploded in terms of attendance, in terms of filmmakers coming, in terms of quality of the films, because the reason why the quality of our films are so high is I actually teach a class, two classes. In the fall, I teach a class where the students program the festival. And
Okay.
in spring, I teach a class where the students run the film festival, and they're doing everything from programming, marketing, driving our celebrities around, the VIP parties, the Q&A sessions with the filmmakers, selling the tickets at the theater, projecting the film from the projection booth. The students really make this happen. So over
That's
10 years,
awesome.
we've had 700 students work on this film festival. And like I
Wow.
said, it's as much
That's
a
amazing.
classroom as it is a really cool and hip indie film festival.
That
So
is cool.
for independent
Wow.
filmmaking, and we're the largest student-run film festival in the country. And at this
Is that
point,
right? Oh my
yeah,
God.
we're about 40 or 50 colleges and universities now put on film festivals, but we're the largest. We were one of the first. I get calls all the time from
Wow.
professors, colleges, university. How do I put a film festival on with my students? And the community of Las Cruces has been amazing. The state of New Mexico has been amazing, and it's really popped.
That's awesome. Congratulations, by the way, on the 10 years with the film festival.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. It's a milestone. It's a big milestone for me and for our program.
Oh yeah. Whoever thought about you going to Sundance, that would have been that start of the idea to do your own film festival. And
That's
what look,
that's and the rewarding thing. And several years ago, Brendan Fraser. We've had some amazing guests at the
oh
film festival.
yeah.
We had Danny Trejo and Edward James Olmos and George Lopez and Sybil
Mhm.
Shepherd and Richard Dreyfuss and Brendan Fraser and William H. Macy and John Carlos Esposito and Ron Perlman and this year
Wow.
Helen Hunt. But Brendan Fraser came in for the film festival a few years ago. We gave him our Outstanding Achievement Entertainment Award, and I went to Sundance in 1997 with Brendan with a film we did together called The Twilight of the Gold. So without me saying anything, we gave Brendan his award. He got
Hmm.
up to speak and he said, I'm standing here in Las Cruces holding this award. And this reminds me so much of being at Sundance in the 90s. That's what this film festival
Oh,
is.
wow.
And I started crying because that was exactly what I was trying to accomplish. And he
Yeah.
said it unsolicited. And I said, okay, Lord, you can strike me dead now. I've accomplished
You
my
accomplished it, man. That's
goal. Yeah.
awesome. And for
Yeah.
him, and here without you even giving him some insight about the Sundance, he just said it because he just experienced it, saying, "This brings me back to the 90s." Of
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
that's
It was
awesome.
my dream. I wanted to recreate in
That
Las
is awesome.
Vegas what they did in Park City, all those years ago.
That's awesome. And this is actually my first year going to the Las Cruces Film Festival, so I'm really looking forward to it. I went to the one in El Paso last 2 years ago. I enjoyed that one, but
Cool.
I gotta say, Ross,
Film
like,
festivals are the lifeblood of independent
right,
filmmaking. They,
yeah.
they really are because it's as much as you're there to screen your films, it's also a convention and a gathering. And I've been to 60 film festivals in my life as a
Oh my
filmmaker.
God.
So I've been to quite a few. And, whenever I'm feeling low or uninspired or depressed about things, whatever, I just go to a film festival and it just fills my tank
Sparks
and
it
I'm
up,
ready to go because,
ready to go.
even the smallest film festivals, they're just the pure celebration of the medium of the
Yeah.
art form. And there's nothing more rewarding and exciting than being at a film festival. And I'm glad that we've had given that opportunity to now probably close to 1,000 filmmakers
Wow.
past 10 years. So over.
Incredible. Incredible. And I want to get into real quick on that film, the Wherever That May Be, because I heard that you were the producer of that from director Ian Cole.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing that film, and I just want to say, so far, meeting pretty much the cast and the director, it just everyone has been so great and welcoming for me, just for the community of Las Cruces, and just I'm looking forward to seeing that film. You want to share a bit about that film?
Sure. So that's exactly what I was talking about earlier, being a mentor.
Hmm.
I was at the several years ago, a few years back, the Femme Frontera Pitch Fest, and Erica got up there and she said, "Here's my film. It's very personal to me. It's about kind of my life and my experiences and the challenges that I've faced given my limitations, and I really want to tell a story and make a movie about it." So I went up to her afterwards. And I said, you have an important story to tell, and you need to tell this, and I want to help you do that. I want to mentor you through that process. And we sat down. First, you got to write a script. You got to get the script right. You got to get it in good shape, and then you got to get actors and work with the actors. I kind of walked her through the steps on how to make a movie and just gave her the emotional and mental and psychological support that I could give, having done it myself many times. And she made a really heartfelt, important, dramatic movie with one of my favorite actresses, Jessica Jimenez, who
Oh yeah.
uh, she was in a movie I did called Santa's Cousin. I think she's a superstar, Jessica Jimenez. I think she's going to be a big actor someday. She reminds me I told her this, I think. At UCLA, I was with Jack Black was the same year and so I took classes with Jack
Oh, you
Black.
did? Oh, that's cool.
And Jessica reminds me of a young Jack Black, what he was like when
That's
when I
true.
was.
I could see that. Yeah.
She's very, very funny and so
Yeah, she
talented.
is.
Great instincts, great instincts, and a tremendous sense of comic timing. Really knows comedy well. But Jessica plays the lead in that film, wherever that may be, and she's delightful. And Erica did a great job, and so I'm really proud of the fact that it's screening at our film festival. I think it's world premiere in Erica's hometown in front of warm, receptive audiences, and I think people are going to really like it. I'm really like it. Just to make a movie is an accomplishment.
Oh,
Just to
yes.
put it together and finish it. So
Yes.
just to make it, then to get into any festival is an
Right.
accomplishment.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So this film Ready is a big success because I think it's a really accurate and important portrayal of what Erica's gone through in her own life. And so
Mhm.
and allowing yourself as a storyteller to be vulnerable like that.
Mhm.
I tell my students when you write something or when you make something as a filmmaker, if you're not insecure and uncomfortable screening it or showing it, then you probably haven't done a good job because you haven't put yourself out there. You have to take those risks and
Hmm.
really hang your ass out there to be successful.
Hmm.
And expose yourself, expose your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses, your fears. Put that onto the screen. And if you do that, you've got a really good chance of success. If you're hiding behind stuff, then the audience will know that and they won't respond. But so Erica really took a part of her and exposed it to an audience and was really
Yeah.
vulnerable with her story and with her storytelling
Wow.
and proud of proud of the film she created and proud that I had a small part in helping her create it.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Ross, for sharing that. I look forward to seeing the film April 11th. She already told me what time it starts. I'm like, I'll be there from morning till evening. Yeah, so I'll be
Yeah.
there.
Well, it's part of our, I think it's part of our local shorts block, if I'm not
Is that one?
mistaken.
Yes.
And they fill up fast. So get there early to make sure you get a seat.
Oh, I will.
That's the other thing with the film festival that's been great is most of our screenings sell out, and all the great film festivals I've been to, Sundance, Toronto, Cannes, Berlin,
Wow.
all the screenings sell out, which is a high class problem because people get mad. Hey, I can't get a seat in the theater, and I say, well, get here early, but it's also it's a high class problem. People are upset the movies are sold out, but that's what we want.
Well,
We want
yeah, that's
we
the
want
goal.
exactly. So we're achieving our goal and then doing
Right. You're like, it's
the
supposed
things
to be sold
that
out.
yeah. Yeah. So that's my message. Get to the theater early when you know what film you want to see.
All right. Well, before we end, I really appreciate you, Ross, for coming on. I do want to ask, what future film projects are you in the works of directing or producing?
So I've got I had a really robust 2025, 24, 25. I directed and produced Santa's Cousin, which came out in December
Okay.
of 24. Then I produced The Ritual with Al Pacino and Dan Stevens. It comes out June of this year. And then Brewman
Awesome.
produced that Keegan Carnes directed that opens the film festival. So three movies in less than a year was pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if I can keep that up, but I'm directing a movie called Holiday Hearts,
Okay.
um, Christmas romance with Jen Lilly and Kathleen Quinlan and Michelle Hurd.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then I'm also putting together a movie called Somewhere in New Mexico. That is a really, really special, important project to me. It's based on my late father-in-law's very famous stage play, When You Coming Back, Red Ryder,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's about the Manson family's Tex Watson, who, after he commits the murders in Los Angeles, goes on the run and ends up at a small town in New Mexico at a diner where he holds people hostage and tortures them mentally, physically, and psychologically.
Wow.
It's got a great cast. So we're putting that together now. So those are the two films that I'm focusing on and looking
Okay.
forward to. Yeah.
I look forward to seeing them when they come out. Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing.
You got it.
I noticed that you met one of my friends, actor Lester Reynolds from the movie
Oh
Fame
yeah.
coming out. Yeah, Lester's such
Yeah.
a cool guy.
Yeah, his enthusiasm is contagious.
Oh my
His
God, yes.
enthusiasm is contagious. So
Yes.
look forward to working with him in the future on something for sure.
Oh, yes. And I just saw, I don't know if you noticed, but he met Emilio Estevez at the Santa Fe Media Convention. I'm like,
Nice.
dude, like, how did you get to meet Billy the Kid, bro?
He's smart. He's very smart about his acting career because I mean, I've met him two or three times now, and he always comes
Yeah.
up to me. So he understands that kind of networking and self promotion is critical for an
Mm.
actor
Oh,
to
yeah,
take
for sure.
control of your career in an industry and in a vocation that you don't have a lot of control. So
Right.
he's very proactive and aggressive about achieving success, and I respect that and admire it and applaud it.
Oh, yeah. And I look forward to seeing the film three at the festival that's appearing.
Also, very,
Yeah.
very good film. You're going to dig that. That was with my friend Eric Roberts, who does a delightful job. Also a neat dude.
Awesome. Now, before we close, Ross, for the viewers, how would they be able to see your films and find you on social media and all the platforms?
So I have a Facebook account. I've got an Instagram account. All of my films are available. Homage, The Twilight of the Golds, Walking with Herb, Santa's Cousin.
Okay.
The Heart Outright. The Ritual comes out in June. Bromance will also come out probably in the fall. All of my short films are on YouTube. I've made several award-winning short films.
Awesome.
So, you just, and that's the other thing, you just keep making movies. The more movies you make, the better you get at it. You learn something, you try something, it doesn't work, great experience. You try something that does work, also great experience. So
Right.
building your toolbox by making movies. And for the film festival, our website, lascrucesfilmfest.com, has our schedule and all the information on the festival, and you can buy
Okay.
tickets there. Festival, of course, is coming up April 9th through the 13th in Las Cruces, and I hope people take advantage of it. And if you like movies, there's no better place to be than our film festival.
Right. And yeah, I agree. And thank you again for having me be at the festival and interviewing these, special guests, your filmmakers, your guests there. So that's gonna be a great time. I really
Yeah,
appreciate that opportunity.
yeah. Well, thanks for being part of it.
No, yeah, thank you. I always ask my guests this before I just remembered. What is one of your favorite movies, and who's the director that influenced you?
I would say, well, first of all, my influences are very much Sidney Lumet, Mike Nichols, Robert Altman.
Okay.
Those were big influences on me. But I think my favorite movie right now, it was for a long, long time, The Searchers, the John Ford, John Wayne movie.
Wow, The
But
Searchers. Okay.
Searchers, yeah, it's I think one of the greatest movies ever made. But a Western, of course. But I think Parasite, the
Oh
really
my God.
replaced that. But I've got about five. I would
Yeah.
say it's Parasite, The Searchers, No Country for Old Men,
Yeah.
Goodfellas, and Vertigo. So I think those
Those
five.
five are your top.
Citizen Kane's right there too. Still
Is it?
remarkable achievement, and Wells was certainly a genius. But I just love all films. I go. My wife, she's like, I can't believe how many movies you sit through that themes is very bad. But I learned something.
Well,
There's
yeah.
the moment, there's the way something's lit. I'm like, I'm going to steal that because there are no great artists, there are only great thieves. And
Yeah.
and Tarantino's made a career
Oh yeah.
stealing from all the greats. So it's the same thing. I go to as many movies as I can. I watch as much, even a television commercial, an insert shot of a hamburger. I'm like, wow, that's interesting the way they framed that and they
Right.
accomplished So
The
that's the great thing about being a filmmaker is, I go to movies, I say, well, I'm studying, I'm
Right.
learning, I mean, and most of if a movie's really good, I stop paying attention to how it's made and I just enjoy the story.
Mm,
If it's not very good, I really start to break it down and analyze it and look at the way a scene is shot in terms of the lighting and the camera work and the actors, blocking and
yeah.
sound design and all those things. So it's been a fun ride for sure.
Awesome. I hope you don't mind I take 5 more minutes of your time.
Sure, of
Back to
course.
the Future. That's one of my all-time favorites. I love it
Yeah.
because story, the actors, the director, it's amazing.
And Robert Zemeckis, Ron Howard, Gary Marshall, these are guys that are great storytellers that
Yeah.
also really understood the audience. And I admire that and respect it. I certainly recently with my film Santa's Cousin, which was a Christmas rom-com, I was very mindful of okay, how do I make this really fun and funny for the audience, the audience, the audience?
Hmm.
And Robert Zemeckis, who did the Back to the Future movies,
Hmm.
really understood how to get an audience to respond to his stories.
Right. I agree. Such an incredible movie. I just loved it. And they always said too, they will, as long as they're alive, no one will remake that film.
Good, good, good,
Like
good.
you
I,
shouldn't.
I'm not a big fan of the remakes, prequels,
No,
sequels. Let's get some original stories out there.
I agree. Well, thank you, Russ Marks, again for coming on Rhythm and Rose. I really appreciate you sharing the journey from the start and just what you have done with the film festival. Congrats on the 10 years as well. I really appreciate just you sharing everything. It's
You
been
got it. Thanks for
been
your time.
awesome.
Look forward to seeing you next week at the film festival.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting you in person. And yeah, thank you again for having me. So,
Okay, you got it. Get lots of sleep.
yes. Thank you guys. We'll catch you on the next one.